In the final years of her reign, Queen Isabella of Castile was whispered about not for her power, but for the screams that echoed through the palace walls at night. Servants claimed the queen's chamber smelled of sickness, of damp cloth, spoiled perfume, and something far worse that no one dared name. She had once been the radiant symbol of Spain's strength, a woman who led armies and commanded respect, but now she lay trembling in her bed, clutching her stomach as something inside her seemed to decay. Every night, her cries grew sharper, desperate, filled with a terror even the most loyal attendants could not soothe. Rumors spread that her illness was unnatural, a curse sent by God, or a punishment for the bloodshed of the Inquisition. But the truth was far more horrifying and far more real, because the queen knew her body was rotting from within, and the worst had only just begun, before her body began to betray her. Queen Isabella of Castile stood at the center of a kingdom rising toward glory. She was the monarch who unified Spain, ended centuries of division, and pushed her armies across Europe with unshakable resolve. Her court adored her strength, her subjects praised her piety, and foreign rulers feared her vision. She was a queen made of iron, steady, commanding, unwavering. Yet beneath the crown, her life had always been marked by quiet tragedies. She suffered difficult pregnancies, lost children in infancy, and endured years of physical exhaustion while ruling a land torn by wars, famine, and political unrest. Her body carried scars the world never saw. Each childbirth weakened her, leaving her more fragile than she ever allowed others to believe. Even so, she pushed herself relentlessly, believing her suffering was part of God's design. But as responsibilities grew heavier, so did the toll on her health. Physicians whispered concerns about her trembling hands, pale skin, and sudden fevered collapses. Still, no one questioned her strength. She moved through the palace halls as though she were invincible. No one imagined that the woman who commanded armies would soon be confined to her bed, trembling, as a sickness she could not see slowly consumed her. From the inside, the first true sign that something was terribly wrong came quietly, so quietly Isabella dismissed it at first. One evening, while preparing for a council meeting, she felt a sudden sharp ache deep in her abdomen, pain unlike any she had known. It lingered, pulsing and tightening, as if an unseen force were twisting something inside her. She steadied herself, waiting for it to fade. It did not. Over the next days, the pain returned in waves that left her breathless. She hid it from her court, blaming her pallor on work, her trembling hands on cold drafts. But truth was harder to ignore when she woke, drenched in sweat, her sheets stained with a foul-smelling discharge no queen should endure. Her ladies-in-waiting exchanged terrified glances but dared not speak. When physicians examined her, their faces tightened with fear the moment they saw her condition. They whispered urgently in Latin, their voices shaking. Isabella watched them, sensing the truth. This was not a passing illness. This was invasive alive. She pressed a trembling hand to her abdomen and felt a horrifying certainty. Her womb, once the cradle of Spain's future, had begun to rot. The pain was no longer a symptom. It was a warning. Weeks passed, and Isabella's world shrank to a single dark room, heavy with the scent of decay. The palace's grand corridors now echoed with silence. Servants walked softly, terrified their footsteps might disturb the queen's tortured rest. Physicians came and went with their herbs and desperate theories, but none dared speak plainly. They called her illness a corruption of humors, a disorder of the womb, anything except the truth they feared. Isabella read their dread in their eyes. They avoided touching her, covering their faces as if her sickness might reach them through the air. Nights were the worst. She lay awake, clutching her blankets, feeling faint movements inside her belly, sometimes shifting, sometimes crawling. She tried to pray, but her words dissolved into whispers. She had survived battles, betrayal, childbirth, yet this silent invasion was something she could not command. The windows stayed shuttered, the room dim. The world moved on without her. She realized with chilling clarity, her body was no longer hers. It was becoming a grave, slowly closing around her while she was still alive. As her illness worsened, humiliation overtook her dignity. The queen's chamber filled with a foul odor. No incense could mask a stench that clung to silk sheets, gold tapestries, and even the clothing of those who stayed too near. Servants who once bowed proudly now approached with lowered eyes, breathing through cloth to endure the smell. Physicians flinched during examinations, their hands trembling, their faces twisting despite their attempts to hide disgust. Isabella watched their reactions and felt the shame burn deeper than the pain. Whispers reached her ears that her womb was decomposing, that her body was turning against her. Attendants changed her linens with the care reserved for the dying, not a reigning monarch. She understood then that she was no longer viewed as a queen, but as a decaying vessel. The stench stripped away her authority more effectively than any rebellion. She was alive, yet already treated as a corpse. When unrest rose in Spain, the royal council begged to see Isabella for guidance. But the queen could no longer rise. When they entered her chamber, they froze shocked by the sight of their sovereign pale, trembling, surrounded by the unmistakable odor of decay. Even her most loyal advisors instinctively stepped back. Still, Isabella forced herself upright, gripping the bedposts as her strength faded. She tried to speak of treaties and rebellions, but each sentence broke under the weight of her agony. The council saw the truth. Their Iron Queen was dying. When a physician finally confessed that her condition was beyond remedy, silence consumed the room. Isabella closed her eyes, not in fear, but resigned acceptance. The council departed in grief, leaving her alone with her rotting body. She had survived wars, but not this. Her final enemy was within. In her final nights, Isabella drifted between fevered dreams and waking terror. The crawling inside her abdomen grew stronger. Then it happened. A violent spasm tore through her, and she screamed with such force that it echoed through the palace. Servants rushed to her bedside only to recoil as worms writhed on the sheets beneath her, slipping from the foul discharge leaking from her decaying womb. Isabella saw them and screamed again, a raw, primal sound that shattered whatever dignity she had left. Her attendants desperately tried to clean the bed, but nothing could hide the truth. The queen was being eaten from within. As dawn neared, her strength faded. Her breathing slowed. Her eyes grew distant. She no longer prayed for healing, only for release. And as light crept across her face, Isabella finally slipped into the silence she had begged for. After her death, the palace fell into a suffocating quiet. Attendants washed her body with trembling hands, unable to forget the horror they had witnessed. Outside, rumors spread rapidly. Some called her death divine punishment, others a curse for the bloodshed of the Inquisition. People spoke of hearing her screams echo through the courtyards on the night she died. Yet as years passed, chroniclers softened the truth. They erased the worms, the rot, the humiliation. They rewrote her as a martyr of mysterious illness. Physicians burned their notes. Servants whispered the truth only in secret. Isabella had decomposed while still alive. Her legacy became a warning carved into Spain's memory: power can conquer nations but cannot defeat the darkness that grows unseen within the body. She remained a queen in history, but in the palace's hidden corners. She was remembered as something far more tragic. The queen Spain could not bear to remember.